Hey everybody, and welcome to episode 21 of the Revive Yourself podcast. Here we go.
Are you sick and tired of being sick and tired? Have you got a health issue that just won't go away no matter what you try? Then welcome to the Revive Yourself podcast, where we reveal the secrets to long-lasting health by getting to the root cause of problems that no one else is talking about. So you can have more energy, clear skin, healthier hair, a leaner physique, more confidence, and most importantly, do the things you love and live the life you deserve. Here's your host, Ryan Martin.
So guys, welcome to episode 21 of the Revive Yourself podcast. Hope you're all doing really well. I got some great feedback on the last episode with Oliver Barnett all about Lyme disease, and we also went into mold, etc. Got some really good feedback on that, so I'm glad that's helped quite a few people out, because I know Lyme disease is something that a lot of people are dealing with at the moment, and it's something that can be extremely tough to go through, especially because lots of people get misdiagnosed and they don't actually even get diagnosed with it, and the medical industry actually refuses to believe that chronic Lyme exists. So I'm glad we can help people with that, and as I said, we get a lot of emails in, and then if anyone needs any help, then don't hesitate to email me or Oliver, but you can also email me, as I said before, always at ryan@reviveyourself.co. And also been getting lots of good feedback all about our free 4-day mini course. Lots of people saying how we've influenced them, how they've changed the way that will change their lifestyle, the way they're eating, etc. And it's led to a lot of people actually wanting to jump on board a couple of our programs. So that's great. The more we can affect change and help people get back to their health, and also get back to living the life that they fully deserve and they love, then the better. That's what I'm all about helping people enjoy their life and getting themselves out of their pain and frustration and moving them forward, which is, well, in fact, there's nothing better than it. Actually, it's a pleasure, and it's actually a privilege to be allowed into people's lives and for them to share their deepest, darkest problems and secrets, so we can move them out of their pain and frustration and out of their nightmare and into their dream and into pleasure and into a life that they love and a body they can love and a body that they are proud of. So that's been great. Anyway, guys, on to the episode for today. Today's episode is with Reed Davis from Functional Diagnostic Nutrition. Now, Reed he's been in this industry for 20 years, and he actually offers a course for Functional Diagnostic Nutrition. They actually offer a course where you can go and learn how to test people for different illnesses, ailments, etc. And he's very, very accomplished in his field, and he's actually, I'd say he's an expert in most things when it comes to nutrition and health. But today, what we are going to focus on is Andropause. Now, we do actually, I've got different questions, and we actually do go off into a few different topics. We hit on parasites, we hit a little bit on exercise and about gaining muscle, but a lot of what we're talking about is andropause, testosterone in men, low testosterone in men, and high estrogen. Because women's issues, we are going to do one on menopause, 100%. We've got one lined up, but men, when it comes to this, men's problems, symptoms seem to be overlooked, because a lot of attention does go into the menopause and into women's health around this, because it's something that every woman goes through, unfortunately. But men who have got low testosterone, and there's so many symptoms as we go through in this podcast with Reed, that so many symptoms that people, I mean, the thing is, with a lot of these illnesses, a lot of the symptoms can be put into different brackets with different illnesses, different ailments. But when it comes to having a low testosterone, losing the libido is definitely one, as well as a whole host of things like gaining body fat in certain areas, brain fog, etc. But anyway, we cover a lot of this, and we let Reed shed light on this topic, and we really let him delve into what can be affecting this and what we can do to get yourself out of it, especially as it's something that affects a lot of men, and most men once they hit 40 years old. So anyway, guys, without further ado, here he is. Here's Reed Davis. Hope you enjoyed the interview, and I'll see you on the other side. Hey guys, and welcome to episode 21 of the Revive Yourself podcast. Today's guest is Reed Davis from Functional Diagnostic Nutrition. Welcome, Reed. How are you today?
I'm fantastic. Thank you, Ryan. It's a pleasure to be with you.
I'm actually not surprised you said that. That's on your Skype handle. That's brilliant. So today we're going to be covering something for the guys, actually. We're going to be digging into male hormone imbalances and andropause, because it's something that doesn't really get talked about that much. Menopause gets covered quite a lot. Women's hormones get talked about a fair deal, but men tend to get almost a little bit forgotten in this. So something we'll be covering today, and I've heard Reed talk about this before, and he definitely knows his stuff. So just for the listeners out there, Reed, how would you define andropause?
Well, it's getting older and your hormones start turning down, starting with DHEA, which is the parent of testosterone. And also it happens early in life, or earlier for some people, when they're under too much stress. So stress is highly involved, but then age is always there to give you a little extra pat on the back or kick in the butt, whichever comes first, you know. Yeah, so it's just natural lowering of hormones, you know, and you have to work to compensate for that.
And in men, when this happens, the natural lowering of hormones, what changes are most common?
Well, you're going to see what they call low testosterone symptoms. And that would be low libido, sex performance, semen levels, fatigue, muscle loss, bone loss even. You can have body hair loss. You know, men can lose the hair off their legs or under their arms and that kind of a thing. Oddly enough, it's the opposite for the top of their heads. Very high testosterone over one's lifetime is a big reason why men go bald and bald early. But the other thing, probably most concerning, other than the libido and sexual things, is increased body fat. You know, you can get thick around the middle real quick, and it's very hard to get rid of because other hormones start to play a role. But, you know, mood disorders, mental fogginess, and these kind of things. It's also been linked, low testosterone has been linked to obesity, diabetes, atherosclerosis, and everyone's favorite, male breasts.
Moobs. Yeah. yeah, as the nickname Moobs. It's so basically the list is endless. It's really, the list is pretty long and
Oh, it's yeah, and you know, just difference between a young man and an older man is a lot of it is just testosterone, and I think there's other things. Certainly. Lung power. I mean, it really is about having the sort of deep lung power, you know, being able to get your body fully oxygenated, including your brain, and then low T. Those are two major things that make old guys feel old.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, you've noticed, you said a few things there, and one I wanted to touch on was actually there's another thing I wanted to touch on. You brought up something. And I've got quite a few questions here, but I've got something else you brought me to my mind. When you said, so contributing factors that can affect this, you said with the young clients and old clients, the difference being testosterone, but then, for example, getting fat around the middle, other hormones start to increase. So, for example, if you had lower testosterone, would that mean that estrogen then increased instead?
Exactly.
Yeah. And would that lead to something like weight around the middle?
Oh, yeah. There's something that everybody should look up. It's called the omentum. It's OMENTUM, omentum. And it's the visceral fat. It's highly attached to the organs. It's not outside the muscle. It's inside the muscle. And when you see guys who otherwise look maybe fairly fit but have these bellies hanging over their belts, it's the omentum. And it has its own blood supply. It's really kind of a tricky little animal, and takes on a life of its own. It starts producing its own estrogen, and then that can, again, it just gets bigger and bigger.
Really? So it literally is. It's literally almost the fat stores stop producing their own hormones.
Exactly.
Oh, and if you got that, how would you go about? How would you get someone to sort of rectify that?
Well, there's really no easy way. It requires a fairly narrow path in terms of your lifestyle. So you have to eat right. You have to go to bed and get a good night's sleep, because growth hormone and some of these things only are elevated at nighttime while you're sleeping. So diet, rest, exercise, of course. You can't be healthy or fit without that. And stress reduction. Again, as I mentioned early on, stress and stress hormones feed into this whole idea. So if you see that guy who's otherwise fairly fit and he's got the big belly, he may have, 2 jobs, or might be an executive where he's under a tremendous amount of stress, and there could be other kinds of stress. Yeah. And of course, there's always supplements you can take, these nutritional supplements, to try to stem the tide or help battle the things you're going through. But it's mostly the lifestyle things. As I said, it's not an easy thing. It's narrow path. When you're 22, you can eat anything, go without sleep. You can do a lot of things. But at 62, it doesn't feel the same way the next morning.
Yeah, 100%. I can see things catch up, the accumulation, right? And one of the things you said there, you want to get your growth hormone high. So would something like intermittent fasting help there? Because there's been studies that show that intermittent fasting actually does raise growth hormone factor.
Yeah, I don't think one should do it too often, but we're designed perfectly to go through some natural sort of intermittent fasting, as you said. Maybe if you go back to the paleo days, you might not have any game around for days. You might find yourself running around for a few days without food, and we're adapted. We can adapt to that, so it isn't the worst thing in the world to miss a meal or two. But you do need nutrients to keep your body functioning. So fasting in general is, if you did too much of it, be counterproductive. Like, for instance, to detoxify your body, you have to have amino acids to work in the liver to do what the liver does. So, going on juice fasts sounds like a good idea, but there's not as many amino acids in juice as there is maybe in eating, more protein-based type things. So you need your protein.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, basically, yeah, if you ever go fast as well, as you said before, there are some supplements you can add in that sort of give you those effects. But so we're sticking with the hormones with men. There, you said before that testosterone being a factor in their inability to lose weight. But if you've got someone who's young, or someone, for example, who's using all natural skin and hair products, they're not eating any soy, for etc., which can affect this. What else can generally be responsible? I mean, I've heard you talk about the liver before. Could the liver be not detoxing estrogen properly? Could this be a reason? Because I know you said about the different hormones, but if the body's not getting rid of estrogen properly, then couldn't that be a factor?
Well, the liver, did you say?
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. The liver is one of your main detoxifying organs. Works in harmony with the other main detoxifiers, the kidneys. For instance, your skin is a detoxifier, your lungs, your colon, and the lymph system, of course. But the liver is considered the grandfather organ. It's really like a factory. So it takes in all of this stuff, some of it good and some of it actually quite toxic. And it has to process that and turn the beneficial items, the nutrients and things, into the body so the body can use them to operate efficiently and smoothly and in a balanced way. But it has to get rid of the toxins. And some of these include excess estrogens and xenoestrogens, those things in the environment that act like estrogen in our bodies. And so, like phytoestrogens is one. You mentioned soy. So the liver can conjugate them. It can actually sequester or just basically neutralize them, and then they can be excreted in the bile. They go into the gallbladder and they're excreted into the small intestine, and then can exit the body through normal, bowel movements. And so, one of the things that happens with an unhealthy gut, for instance, is there are certain bacteria that can separate and reactivate estrogen. So estrogen can then get reabsorbed back into the body. Excuse me. And generally that wouldn't be a good thing. So you have to, a lot of people, when they deal with estrogen problems or testosterone problems, they think it's all in a bottle. They can, take something over the counter, and it just doesn't really work that way. No. And there are foods that are known. There's the sexy 7 foods. You certainly could add those in, and I'm a full proponent of that approach, to just eat foods that would increase testosterone, and you can't go wrong because your body, you're not going to sort of overdose on anything. Well, and in America, yeah.
So just for our listeners, can you just list them for us, the sexy 7?
Sure. No, you may have seen the movie Rocky. Yeah. Rocky Balboa, right? So the Rocky Balboa diet. Well, eggs. If you remember, he was cracking eggs and just drinking them down in the morning. That's really good. The cholesterol actually is a building block of your sex hormones, and there's good cholesterol in the eggs. Now, fish are excellent. They contain the B vitamins, and they're a good source of healthy fats. Oysters, very rich in the minerals like zinc. They're almost pure protein, and they have other minerals and things in them. Lean beef is okay. I wouldn't eat too much beef. I think you have problems with, commercial beef can have unwanted elements in it, but good clean lean beef offers, protein, of course, and some good minerals. And it's actually known that vegetarians, generally speaking, have lower testosterone levels. Now, nuts and seeds contain more of the essential fatty acids you could use, and minerals, of course. There's certain fruits, avocados, figs, beans, bananas, very good for you, and vegetables. You got to eat your broccoli, anything with the indole 3 carbinol type elements in it would suppress estrogen. Things like cabbage, broccoli, these are very, very good for you. Garlic, try to eat as much garlic as you can stand. So I would say eggs, fish, oysters, lean beef, nuts, fruits, vegetables. The Rocky Balboa diet.
Yeah, fair enough.
Now, again, diet's where you start. I mean, this is for any health condition, including low T or andropause. Diet is really, really critical. So, but then you can't just eat right and not sleep. Again, the rest and recovery is critical, especially split shifts. I want to tell you, it's been proven men who work night shift have lower testosterone. It's just how it works. And it's not a natural thing for us to do that anyway. So you want to get as much sleep as you can before midnight and sleep till 6 a.m., something like that. The other parts of the lifestyle, exercise is incredible. Doing things with high intensity, the interval type training would be really good for you. Work up a sweat, detoxify through the skin and that kind of a thing. And then get rid of stress, because stress will destroy your hormone levels. Just ask women under stress how they feel about hormonal things. Men are subject to it too. Why would we be immune to the effects of stress? Yeah. Even as much as we like to think we are, we're not.
Yeah, no, 100%. It's pretty common, I think, when you probably notice with your clients. I have in mind that men that are under a lot of stress, their libido is completely gone. a lot of the times, and it's something they have to really take into account. And people, just for people out there listening, stress isn't just your work. Stress can come in many forms. It can come from stress from electromagnetic frequencies. It can come from your water supply. It can come from poor food choices. All these add to your overall stress. So, as Reed's saying, that it's very, very important to get that down. And as Reed's also saying, all these things, to get to the root cause of them, it's all about your internal health. So, I mean, just because I've heard you mention it before. You said that the liver processes 3 pints of blood a minute. I've heard you say before, and you even said, talking a little bit there about lean beef. I've heard you mentioning cows actually get estrogen tablets sewn into the back of their necks to make them fatter. Is that correct? Yeah.
Well, not all countries allow it, but in the U.S., beef is raised in pens. They don't even get to walk around on farms anymore. They're raised more or less in factories, and they get fed specific feed, and they get hormone treatment and antibiotic treatment. And it's really quite if you visited one of these places, they're called feedlots. You probably wouldn't even want to eat the meat from a place like that.
No, you 100% wouldn't. I've seen rendered food they give them to eat, plastic pellets and things like that. I mean, I just wanted to mention it because you said, like, for example, you mentioned about getting high quality lean beef, because if you're not eating high quality lean beef, then it can affect your internal health. For example, you said before the liver, you're talking about the gut health, and if that's off, then, I mean, for example, why would, you mentioned it there, obviously the food quality, but I mean, would that be a reason why the liver could get backed up in the first place, like food sensitivities and like immune complexes?
Oh, absolutely. The connection between the gut and the rest of your body is critical. The gut, we call it the mucosal barrier, is a second skin. So your skin obviously protects you from things that you might get exposed to, but inside you need this really healthy mucosal barrier. So it's supposed to keep out toxins and poisons and pathogens, germs and things, of course. But it's permeable. It has to let food in. It has to let in the vitamins and minerals and amino acids and essential fatty acids and other, phytonutrients and things. So it's very sensitive. It's really sensitive. So it's actually a huge part of your immune system. And when it's compromised for any reason, this compromising of the gut / immune system can happen slowly over time. So it's not like you get whacked one day with something. It just very, very slowly can start to break down. It's quite insidious that way. And so, you just get to the point where you've got hyperpermeability and these antigens and toxins and things actually getting through, and then the liver can get overloaded. The liver's job is to clean that up. So we're designed to handle some toxins and antigen load coming through, but not to the levels that where some of us are not very nice to our livers in that way.
Yeah. So, for example, if you're really stressed, or if you're eating poor food choices, or if you're using, for example, chemical-based fragrances or lotions, and so all these things can. I mean, you've got adrenal exhaustion or excess cortisol. All these things can break. They may break down the mucosal barrier, and so when the mucosal barrier opens up, it opens up the gateways, and it lets these things pass through that aren't supposed to go in. And so all that stuff then goes through the liver, and then the liver gets backed up, so it can't conjugate the estrogen, or it can't detoxify the way it needs to, and then you've got things such as high estrogen. Would that be correct?
Yeah, that's the idea. There's the liver sometimes, even if it is doing, it's working its little tail off, and it's maybe doing some good detoxification, but then those toxins can stay in circulation. So the liver's pulling some of them out, and they get excreted in the bile, which goes directly into the small intestine, but then it can just get resorbed right back through that leaky gut, so to speak, and so it just circulates, and you can't you're not really getting rid of it. And that would be whether it's really toxic things like metals, mold residues. There's just neurotoxins, biotoxins, all kinds of things.
And then how would you have to get them out? By using some sort of extraction process, or would it just be plugging in the gut again?
Well, you can't just you want something that will chelate or latch on to the toxins. So there are plenty of things like that. Chlorophyll is one of the sort of tried and true. There's some other things. There's actually medication that people take. If you think about it, that's how these anti-cholesterol drugs work. And I'm not for those, but they do bind. So they bind to the cholesterol and help your body to excrete it. And there's other binders that you can use.
Yeah, I think, as you mentioned before, chlorophyll, I think chlorella, strawberries are also very good at that, getting rid of a few of those things. When you so Reed has his own program, or it's a program. It's a Functional Diagnostic Nutrition course, for example. People can go and get qualified in there, and you do quite a lot of tests. Would that be correct when you're going through?
Yeah, I teach a course in functional lab work and natural protocols. Okay. That's correct. Mm-hmm.
So just being devil's advocate, if someone came to yourself and they had a lot of these problems, what I've noticed, not with yourself, it's other people in the industry that tend to just send clients off for a lot of tests. I've been sitting there before, and people have sent people off for tests when, they've got lots of problems, but the issues could have been made, I think, 85 to 90% better by cleaning up their diet first and doing a whole lot of things right first. So people who are going to get tests, first of all, in your opinion, wouldn't you put them on a protocol that would clean up their diet, get their hydration right, get their rest right, etc.? Because otherwise, you can get tests that come back and they're always going to have something wrong with them because, let's be honest, they've not been living in the correct way to start with.
Yeah, that's correct. Everyone that we test has some kind of issue, and some worse than others. And the testing just allows us to target things a little bit. We're not diagnosing or treating like physicians. We don't want to just measure a hormone, for instance, and say, oh, look, it's low. The medical approach is to say, well, here's some of that. Here's some testosterone. Here's some estrogen. Here's some progesterone, or thyroid hormone is a very common one. And so that's not the purpose of the testing, because we don't want to just change the numbers on the paper. That's actually quite easy to do. If your testosterone's low, there's things you could take, but that's the quick fix. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't solve any of the underlying issues, such as maldigestion, malabsorption, poor detoxification, weak immune system, on and on and on. So our approach is always to do the more long-term work. Again, in the beginning, I said sometimes a narrow path in terms of lifestyle, the diet, rest, exercise, stress reduction, a narrower path can be a huge part of the solution. So we look for the healing opportunities, whether they're in the hormones or immune system or digestion or detoxification. There are healing opportunities that can be pointed out by the correct lab work. Mm-hmm. That's why they call it functional lab work. Mm-hmm. You're not looking for disease to just, here's to tell you which prescription to write. We don't write prescriptions, mm-hmm. except for lifestyle and sometimes some supplements. Yeah.
So, for example, when someone goes to the anti-aging doctor and they say, well, you got your testosterone's low, here's some testosterone for you. They're just masking symptoms with band-aids. They're not getting to the root cause, are they?
Well, they're doing a job that you're basically asking them to do. Test my testosterone, give me something for it. So that's one approach. And It's fine if that's what you want to do, but it's not what we do. We do look at all the systems, or as many as we can get our arms around with a handful of tests, and see what, again, those healing opportunities are. And then we would, if we prescribe anything, it is the narrower pathway, specifically diet. Getting people off inflammatory foods, for instance. Everyone has some sensitivities. It's good. You can sort of play around forever with elimination diets, but testing kind of just gets it done. So that's one test we do. Also, another huge and very important stressor is parasites, bacteria, funguses, viruses, and things. These stress your body out, and you may not even know it. But the body responds in a way, hormonally, digestive, the liver, is working overtime, things like that. So it's good to test for those things.
Yeah. So basically, what you're trying to say is, if people are listening, there's no real definitive answer to why your T levels could be low. There's lots of different areas that could be that could need addressing, and then you need to do some investigating really to see how it's all working. Just sticking on parasites for a bit, because it's something that I really am interested in. It's something that I've been doing a lot of research in the last few years, and it's something that I think a lot of people. I mean, I've heard quite a few researchers say I think it's the unsung epidemic of our health problems in a lot of ways. People don't actually know much about parasites. I know you've done quite a lot of work on them. How can they affect you, and what can happen if you let them basically get how can I put it best, infiltrate your system to make it more towards them than you?
Well, that's a really interesting question. It's kind of like, which came first, the chicken or the egg? Because are the bugs the problem? Well, they're part of the problem. They're contributing factors because they exude toxins and stink up the place, so to speak, and they breed other, poor ecological things into the system. But are they the problem, or are they the result of the problem too? Did you get bugs because you were a willing host? So it's really quite insidious how the body breaks down, and you can become a good host for the bug. So if you get what I'm saying, which came first, and that's why we would say treat the whole person, because there's lots of pathology tests. Most people run a stool test for pathology, and a lot of practitioners would say, "Oh, I found your problem. It's H. pylori, or it's something like that, a yeast overgrowth, or what have you." And that's just part of the problem. That those overgrowths are opportunistic. That you had to have a willing host first, if you get what I'm saying. So we would certainly want to have that person get treated, or they can self-treat. There's lots of botanical products that knock down yeast or parasites and such. But you have to also coach up, build up your natural immunity. And that's the long term, again. So you can knock down some bugs, but they're just going to come back if you don't fix the host.
Yeah.
It's kind of like a bad neighborhood. You can chase the bums out, as we would say here, but they're just going to come back.
Yeah.
And they're going to invite their friends if you don't fix up the neighborhood.
Yeah, it's like, so this is what I always say to my clients, you have to change the terrain, otherwise, as you say, they're just going to come back. You can kill them off, but then they're just going to come back. It's as you say, that the germ is nothing, the terrain is everything, sort of. So without that being right, it just goes, in terms, what are the most, if you're for someone with low estrogen, or, for example, so low estrogen, low testosterone, what would be some of the? Well, are there any common parasites or any common bugs that you see in conjunction with this?
That's a good question. I don't haven't drawn any personal correlations between a specific overgrowth of bacteria or a parasite or even yeast. They're just part of the mix. I use this term now a lot, Ryan. It's metabolic chaos. So you have an infinite number of metabolic processes ongoing, and those complexities are meeting up with an underappreciated environment. Everything from the air you breathe and the radiation, as you mentioned, and lots of things in the environment that are underestimated. And so you have your weak links in metabolism meeting up with a fairly toxic world. I had one doctor tell me he basically said we're all marinating in a toxic soup. Now that might be overstating it a little, but you get the point.
Yeah.
And so now everyone's individual. We're not like each other as much as we like to think we are. There are unique in these complexities of metabolism. There are unique weak links or vital voids in metabolism, and so it's good. The same toxic world affects you one way and me another. You have one set of symptoms. I have a different set of symptoms, and those bugs are just part of that mix. So again, I don't think they're the problem. I think they're a result of the problem. Yeah. A weak host in some way.
Yeah, they are opportunistic, and once they see a weak host, they will just take over. And as before, they are Mother Nature's decomposers. So if you let them in and you don't start to do your work on them, then they will take over. And as you know, they can infiltrate your nervous system. They can make you crave foods. They can affect your mood. They can do a lot of things. So yeah, you need to really work on yourself.
Yeah, and it's so insidious, Ryan. I'll just give you some of my experience. I started in this field back in the late 90s, so almost 20 years. And people have just broken down over time. Like you could be 8, 9, 10 years old, and it could start then with just certain foods that are irritating the lining, the small intestine. You start breaking down the microvilli and the villi, and now you're not digesting quite as well, and your immune system's a little bit ticked off, let's say. Now, you don't ever really fix it. You keep eating those foods, you're in the same environment, and so on and so on. And then it starts getting worse until the point where you have to start treating the symptoms. So there's what everyone does. They take something for it. You go to the pharmacy, whatever, drugstore, and you take something. So you're really never really getting to the root of it, to the underlying causal factors. You're not improving the host ever. And so I've seen every kind of case in my 20 years, from the 7, 8-year-old who's just got a little upset tummy to the 78-year-old who has their bowels removed and their anus sewed up, and just a permanent bag on their side because they've had their guts removed. Pardon the graphic description there, but I've seen it from one end to the other. No pun intended. And that's how things work. If you don't try to get to the if you don't do functional assessments and narrow lifestyle based protocols, really try to improve the health of the host instead of just treating the bugs and what have you.
Yeah, 100%. I say to people all the time. It says like, what starts off as a little something then turns over time into a chronic issue, and if you still don't listen, that's when things really start to take off, and that's when you get problems. And as you say, that's the thing. You can throw botanicals at things, you can throw drugs at things, but at the end of the day, they're not getting to the root cause. And I know that's what you're all about, and that's what I'm all about, and that's the only way you actually do get long lasting change. So. The things that people can do, but actually I just want to keep on. If someone's got low testosterone, in your experience, Reed, and their stool comes out and it's quite a sandy colour, it's not dark, what would that suggest anything to you?
Well, light stools, especially if they float, are fatty. That's called steatorrhea, and you've got fatty stool. And so usually this is a problem with the bile's not flowing. You're not really handling your fat very well. So I wouldn't directly correlate that with testosterone problems, but people have problems. People with low testosterone, there are, again, these infinite complexities in metabolism, and certainly you could have all kinds of digestive issues. Mm-hmm. You could also, low testosterone could be in the brain. In the brain, you have the hypothalamus and pituitary. These are regulating organs. They regulate hormones in your body, especially the sex hormones. So you could have perfectly well-functioning testicles, but they're not getting the correct amount of signaling hormones from the pituitary. Low luteinizing hormone, low follicle stimulating hormone equals low testosterone and low sperm count. So that's just how it works. So it might be, you could be doing a lot of things right, and yet you've got issues. It's why we take such a holistic, broad view, and it's the only way I know.
No, I 100% agree. And I'm just looking at things that people can do for these sort of things. I always say try and clean out your body. Myself, I try and do a liver cleanse and a colon cleanse, etc., a couple of times a year. Just because, as you said, like living in the what did you say? A toxic soup, was it? I think you mentioned.
Yeah, we're marinating in a toxic soup.
Marinating in a toxic soup. Yeah. So, like you say, like the plastics, and then the VOCs, and then people obviously drink alcohol, and then you've got heavy metals and parasites, etc. The burden on our system is just so much higher than it was even 50 years ago. And if you look into that,
yes,
and you look into chemtrails and the quality of your water, etc. So, giving yourself a cleanse. I mean, I know you always see like the conventional doctors come out and say you don't need to cleanse, your body does it all itself. Well, yeah, it might have been true in my opinion in the past, but nowadays we're under such a burden that you do need to give your body a time to get rid of those accumulated toxins, especially the way the food is today. I think you probably agree. I
agree with both. That you do. Your body's designed to detoxify, but it just gets overloaded and it gets dysfunctional, and it's not easy to clean it up once it's been broken down. Yeah. It takes a lot of effort.
Yeah, luckily for us, the body's actually a wonderful thing, and it does actually have the innate ability to heal itself. It's one of the sometimes I don't know how it carries on. It is quite a remarkable machine. But I just wanted to say to you, just quickly, I've got some questions for you that I
sure.
have given people have asked me to ask you. So from my friend Jack, he's actually a friend, he's a client, former client, friend now. He wanted to know, how does sleep and rest affect hormone balance?
Well, rest and recovery is critical, and number one, you need to follow the normal diurnal circadian rhythm. We are not nocturnal animals. We're not meant to be awake at nighttime. We're meant to go to sleep. So staying up late, working split shifts puts stress on the adrenals and the sex hormones, and on blood sugar levels, and on your detoxification pathways. It's known that we actually detoxify better at nighttime, including the brain. If you're not into a deep sleep on a regular basis, like every night, you're going to have a toxic brain. Your brain cells actually shrink. They're called glial cells. They shrink at night when you're in this certain state of sleep, so that fluids, cerebral spinal fluid, can flow through the brain and clean out the toxins. So sleep is just absolutely critical. And you should get as much sleep as you can before midnight. Now, this is kind of an old Chinese theory, I think, but 2 hours of sleep before midnight is worth 4 afterwards. So if you could get to sleep by 10 o'clock every night, the way we're designed, again, the circadian rhythm, these are things that are built in. Your body will detoxify better. You'll rest your adrenals and all the other organs. And, you need to do that and stabilize your blood sugar throughout the night. So this is where stress plays a factor, cortisol levels and things like that. Cortisol elevated, like if you're under stress, will depress melatonin. And that's your sort of known sleep hormone. It's really critical to get a good night's sleep. I don't know if I answered your question wholly, but
Yeah,
there's part of it.
Yeah, no, you did. I think it's and these are the things. Once you add all these things together, that's what makes the effect so huge, as you mentioned there. So I think that's a great thing you said there. Hours of sleep before midnight are worth double.
Yeah, even if you get 1 hour sleep before midnight, it's really good for you. That's worth 2 afterwards, and it's not an easy thing to do because a lot of us are self-employed and we're busy in the day and we work late. It's just part of the program. You have to discipline yourself sometimes to just get yourself to bed.
Yeah, 100%. I find it hard sometimes. When I do it, I notice a big difference. But sometimes it's just, even when it just comes to, there's a great quote. I can't remember who it's from. But it says there's a time for lots of talk and then there's a time for sleep, and it's true. But even for myself, sometimes you say with work or just researching, I can get carried away and I can lose track of time, and all of a sudden it's like 11:30. I'm like, oh, I should be going to bed here. It happens, but try to always get into bed for at least 11 o'clock, lights out. So hopefully, Jack, that helps with your question. Also, Reed, wanted to talk to people. A couple of people asked about when you're looking to put on muscle mass, what are some of the underlying problems people can have genetically going on that can stop them from putting on muscle mass, or any things can people be fighting an uphill battle if they haven't got the right genetics to put on muscle?
Wow, that's a good one. And I'm not a genetic expert. It's more about epigenetics for me. Like the same doctor who said, his name is Russell Jaffe. He's really a smart guy and kind of a buddy of mine now. And he's the one who said that we're swimming in a toxic soup. So he talks a lot about that. Give me the exact question again.
So people who struggle to put on muscle mass, can the underlying problem be their genetics?
His quote, the quote I wanted to give you from him is that genetics are about 8 or 9% of our problems. The other, say 90+% is epigenetics, how you live. So you've got genetics, and then you have you have to live, in a way that the bad genes don't manifest. And so, putting on weight isn't exactly in that category, but it tells you that regardless of your genes, you can, add weight or lose weight if you want. Me, I'm a big boned guy. I'm 5'10", but I weigh a good 100 kilos. I'm a thick guy, big, very strong, thick bones, and I can carry the weight. A lot of muscle, and I bulk up fairly easily, so there's other people, might call them ectomorphs, they're just basically skinny, and so it doesn't mean you can't put on some weight. You would have to do everything right, again, eat right and rest right and exercise right. Actually, my girlfriend right now, she has a 19-year-old son, and he asked me the other day, how can I bulk up? He's as skinny as you could count the ribs, like looking at him type of guy. So, right now I said, meet me at the gym. We'll show you a few things, and then you change your eating, and make sure you're getting a good night's sleep. So you have the growth hormone, and basically goes back to our DRESS program. DRESS stands for DRESS stands for diet, rest, exercise, stress reduction, and supplements. Mm-hmm. Now, I'm not going to have him take a lot of supplements or anything, but a few maybe. Make sure he's getting all the vitamins, all the minerals that you need, the phytonutrients, the amino acids, the essential fatty acids, and just really eating just right. And he's a teenager. He's in college, so he's staying up late. I don't know if he's doing homework or playing games on the computer, but he's up late. He's a musician too, so he does stay up too late. Doesn't quite get all the sleep he needs, unless he's sleeping in. Yeah. It's like, hey man, if you're sleeping past 7 o'clock in the morning, something's wrong in my world. Yeah. But anyway, he could sleep till noon, that kid. But so I know I'm being a bit obscure, but it's you just have to work at it.
Yeah.
Do all the things right and do more of the things that contribute to bulking up and less of the things that would detract from that.
100%. Someone like, I think you said your girlfriend's son, 19 years old, obviously he's going to have a very, very high metabolism. Getting in the right amount of calories, obviously then, but good quality calories, not just any calories for me, not just like throwing any. 500 calories from a sweet potato is a lot different to 500 calories from a packet of Haribo, or I don't know what you call them over there. Do you have Haribo where you are? Do you know what Haribo is?
Yeah, well,
Sweets.
what is it?
It's like
candy. Candy. I was thinking it's a candy.
It's candy. Yeah, sweets. Yeah. So example things like that, and then you got other people the other end of the spectrum that are looking to put on muscle and get rid of fat. There's some things you'll be doing similarly, but as you said, it's horses for courses, right? It depends on you, and that's where you don't blanket prescribe because you've got different ways of doing things.
Yeah.
Other questions?
Well, I'll say that avoiding sugar is one of the first things you want to do for any health situation. Sugar is pretty poisonous, and you don't want to do candy, like ever. If you do, it's got to be a rare treat, and for a good reason. Yeah. I always say to people, and don't drink much unless you have a good reason.
Yeah. There are no excuses unless you have an excuse, sort of thing. There's actually, I mention it because there's an article going around on the internet from a couple of guys which said how we got ripped eating Pringles and Haribo, and it's just like, well, brilliant, funny, brilliant, you can do that, but when you got a chronic issue, here's my number, because that's the way you can do things. You can calories, but it might, as you know, and the way it affects hormones and the way it affects your body and the internal health, calories are not all made equal. And the result of having foods that are going to chronically inflame you and cause allergenic responses down the road, keep on eating them, then see where you are in about a few years.
Exactly, and those guys are young. I guarantee it. They got to be in their 20s. Because what do we know when we're in our 20s? Although you probably are, Ryan, looking at your picture.
Oh, no, I'm 31. I'm out of my 20s now.
Right, you graduated.
Yeah. I went through my thing is really, this is why people always say whenever I do my seminars, I always start with what can a 31-year-old teach you about health. I was unlucky. You can say I look at it back now as lucky. I went through my own health issues at like 16 to 22 or like 17 to 22, 5 years of absolute hell and nightmare. But I wouldn't have it any other way because it's led me to leading this life, and now I help loads of people going through their problems. But yeah, I was like that at that age. I used to think you could eat what you want and take a pill and everything would be fine. That led to a whole host of problems. And as you said, generally it's people that are young that will have that impression. And yes, they are young. And actually, one of them is actually a medical doctor. Very funny.
Well, I have to say, I was a hippie. I'm in my 60s, and I went through that whole era abusing myself with the best of them. And so, I thought I was just having fun and that I could take it, and I did all right. But it will catch up with you, and you just don't do those things anymore. Here's a good way to look at it, I think, as far as anti-aging goes. A lot of people think that your life energy or health, if you will, kind of goes up and up and up, and when you hit about 40, it starts to go back down. Maybe 50, we kind of draw this big arc. Well, and then you die at, 75 years old. The average age for males is around 72 or 3 years old. So, excuse me, better to think of it as you go up to about 40, and then it should flatline. Don't draw the arch in. It should flatline. You should stay the health of a 40-year-old, a good, solid 40-year-old. And me at 64 years old, I'll take that. I'll take that in a heartbeat. A good, solid 40-year-old until I'm 80. So a nice flat line. Now, at 80, I don't mind aging. If I start to go downhill after that, I'll be okay. But that's my goal right now, the way I work out. And I haven't worked out yet today, but I've worked out every day this week. I go to the gym and I do some things. I stretch and I strengthen, stretch and strengthen, stretch and strengthen almost every day. And it's because at 64, you have to. You got to be disciplined. You got to make it a real habit. And so I'm trying to stay 40 till I'm 80. I'm never going to be 22 again. Let's face that, right? Mm-hmm. I don't even want to be.
Yeah, exactly,
all the abuse I was going through, self-inflicted, of course. So yeah, I just want to do that. Just stay 40 till I'm 80, and then after that, I think I'll be okay to take a break.
Yeah, no, that's it. It's funny because all the people I know that live our way, so the healthiest people I know, well, my friend's been doing this for a while. He's now 41, I think. He looks about 27. And just been, it's just part of your lifestyle. Like when you get into it, you eat well, you train, you go to the gym, you do the things, and it's no coincidence that everyone I know who's in it basically looks very well off of it. As he always says, like, it's just luck. Oh, it's just luck. Just very lucky, It's not luck. It's doing what it needs to be done. And as you said, that's a very good way of looking at it. I think if you can, 40 is a great age. If you can stay looking like that for the rest of your life and feeling like that, I think that's absolutely fine. I think a lot of I know people, men generally as well. Luckily for us, generally we tend to age like wine. We tend to look better as we get older. So we get away with it.
There is, we can't just toss out the idea of genetic potential.
Yeah.
Some of us have more genetic potential or different genetic potential than the next guy. I have aunties who lived in Lancashire and Rochdale in that area up there.
Okay, yep.
Who lived to be 100, 98, 96, aunts and uncles, great aunts and uncles who lived to be well into their 90s, and one even lived to be 100 years old. And so that's genetic potential. I'm 64. I'm thinking, I still got plenty of time to do some good in the world, right?
It's also the quality of life that you get there, right? People say, I don't want to live till I'm 80 because of that. And I'm like, well, if you're living until you're 80 and you're feeling like you're 40, then why wouldn't you? It's all about the quality of your life.
Yeah.
No one wants to be.
Right now, I'm just trying not to get hurt.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I get what you're saying, but it's just if you keep doing the things you're doing, really, I'm sure that you're gonna keep living in a very healthy way. You're gonna keep getting good results. One of the things I wanted to quickly ask you before you go, because I know you've got to go in a little while, it was just if people are looking to do tests for hormones, what's best? Would it be blood, saliva, or urine? I just wanted to add a point to that as well, because generally people will say, I got my scores back and my test scores were normal, but I still feel terrible. Why is that? And I'll say, well, because the scores are taken on today's average person, and the average person today is like Homer Simpson, they're not great. You want to get optimal. So in your opinion, what are the best tests to do?
Well, there's no one test where you can put a cup of urine or a tube of blood into a computer and have it tell you everything. So there isn't one test. So it depends on what you're looking at. I run 5 labs, some saliva, some blood, some urine, and some stool on every person. We actually use 2 urine tests, a saliva test, a stool test, and a blood test. So that's a lot of data that can give us a lot of areas. Again, hormone, immune, digestion, detoxification, energy production, nervous system. So these are critical areas that if you're going to take a holistic approach, you'd want to run maybe a handful of labs for a comprehensive assessment. But having said that, if you just want to test hormones, I'm using saliva, and we don't use blood very much at all because it's not the bioavailable levels. Saliva is very, very good, especially for cortisol levels. But you can measure the sex hormones like DHEA. There's other testing methods, and I've used them all. And but for hormones, we're still using saliva. It's tried and true. Saliva testing has been around for 30 years, and there's 300 research papers written on its validity. It's well accepted now around the world as a very valid form of testing, and it's easy to collect at home. It's sent in. You don't have to go get the blood draw. That's pretty critical too, to make it easy on people and relatively inexpensive.
Oh, fair enough. So, just lastly, because I know you've got to go, you've got a very busy day. If you could say, if you could say to people the top 5 things that people should do to keep men should do to keep their testosterone levels high, as well as keeping estrogen low, what would they be?
The top 5 things?
Yeah.
I'm glad you didn't say 6. I'll tell you why. Because if you look at your hand, you have 5 fingers.
Right.
And you label them: diet, rest, exercise, stress reduction, and supplements. Those 5 things. I mean, that's a lot. That's a whole program. That's a complete lifestyle. Your diet, your rest, your exercise, your stress reduction, your supplements.
Dress.
See, so 5 things. Yeah, dress. And if you'd have said 6 things, then I'd have been messed over.
Looking for the
Good. Like plus your thumb on the other hand or something. But no, DRESS really spells it out.
Yeah. Okay. And Reed, just for everyone out there, if they want to find you, obviously you have your FDN, Functional Diagnostic Nutrition course. What's the website for that? Is it bonesandhormones.com? Is that the best place?
No, it's actually, like you said, Functional Diagnostic Nutrition.com. Functional Diagnostic, just the way it's spelled out. That's our course in functional lab work, and there's no real prerequisites. People take it to work on themselves. Most people who take it are personal trainers, nutritionists, and we have chiropractors and acupuncturists and osteopaths and people like that too. But anyone that wants to help themselves and learn a way to help others and have a really fantastic business out of that can go there, functionaldiagnosticnutrition.com, read all about it, get your questions answered. And we have quite a family of practitioners around the world, between 2,500 and 3,000. We're in 50 countries, a lot of United Kingdom, Europe, Australia, New Zealand, mostly, United States, Canada, obviously. But we're all over.
Awesome. So anyone looking to get into it, I definitely can recommend it. It's something that I think people can get really good benefit out of. And so, what's the Bones and Hormones website? Is that your personal site? Was that correct?
Yeah, that's just something that it's kind of an example of. It's my personal site. I had that it's my first ever website. So,
okay.
And people can get personal help there.
All right, awesome. Well, thank you very much. We covered quite a lot there.
We did.
Tangent,
Listen,
that's what always happens.
Well, Ryan, I'm happy to come back anytime. Just let me know when you need me, okay?
That'd be awesome. Thank you very much.
You guys, okay. Brilliant. Great. Have a great weekend. Talk to you later. Bye-bye. Thanks.
So, guys, that was episode 21 with Reed Davis. I'm sure you learned a whole load. And as it always goes back to finding the root cause and not just masking symptoms. So, we went in there deep into andropause, low testosterone, high estrogen. We went into fat gain and lots of different things. When we moved into parasites, diet, as he said, Dr. S. So, Dr. S. Dr. D-R-E-S. Sorry? D-R-E. Yeah, sorry. D-R-E-S-S. So, as always, diet, rest, exercise, stress, and supplements. Well, it's a good way to look at things, really, covering. It's a holistic approach. So you're looking at everything, and then you're looking at lifestyle things that are going to drive up estrogen, lower testosterone, and things that we can do to lift that testosterone up. So guys, as always, looking into the mind as well, the mental side of things, stress really does play a part. But as I said in the podcast, stress actually comes in many different forms. It's not just from your work and your home life, but it comes in the form of the food you're eating, the water you're drinking, the frequencies you're surrounded by, what you put on your skin. It all adds to your accumulative stress load. So anyway, guys, hope that's really helped any of you that have been struggling with low testosterone, especially if you're looking at the liver and the internal organs. If you've got things going through the mucosal lining, foodstuff, particles, pathogens, parasites, then they're going through and they are just leading to a clogged up liver. A liver that's not been able to, but most people's livers run at about 40%, as I said in that. And if that's you guys, if you're noticing anything, it's what happens with people with hay fever as well. Not only have they got a leaky gut, but then the liver becomes overloaded and it's not detoxing properly, and then people get allergies, symptoms like that, and this all leads to things. If you're not getting rid of estrogen, if you're not getting rid of toxins, parasites, heavy metals, etc., then properly, then you're going to get these problems. So I hope that's helped, guys. Anyway, as I said before, if you want to contact Reed, go and follow me at his website, Functional Diagnostic Nutrition. Otherwise, guys, if you have been dealing with any sort of health issues and you want to join our free 4-day mini course, then hit me up at ryan@reviveyourself.co or heading over to www.reviveyourself. Probably the best thing to do would even be to head on over to our Revive Yourself page on Facebook. You find our page, it's a picture of, it's actually the same picture that you use on the podcast picture, the iTunes, blue background, me drinking my green smoothie. If you find that, it just said Revive Yourself is on Facebook. And also, as always, guys, if you can, leave us a review, a 5-star review would be great, so we can get this information out to more people, so we can help change their lives for the better. And it's really been great these last few weeks. We've really had a great uptake on the emails, to responses to the courses we were offering, and to all the guests. So keep listening, guys. We really do thank you for your support, and I'm really working on getting some affiliates up on my website, so you can start to, things that we do recommend, we can start to offer you the easiest way possible up through our site. There's a lot of work going on in the background, as always. And yeah, got some really good interviews coming for you. So as always, guys, keep moving for your health. If you need any problems and you want to reach out, then as I said before, you can always contact me on Facebook, or you can contact me at ryan@reviveyourself.co. Otherwise, guys, that's it for this week. As always, stay happy, stay healthy, and I'll speak to you soon.
If you're struggling with gut issues, such as gas, bloating, constipation, diarrhea, indigestion, heartburn, and want to finally be able to eat the foods you love without the crippling after effects, then don't forget to head over to reviveyourself.co and pick up your free copy of The Healing Health Paradigm today.